All right, what's up, everybody? Will here, and today I am breaking down Sol de Janeiro. Really quite a scaled up beauty brand. This brand actually back around 2021 was sold for over $400 million. And so this is a quite a big brand. They're huge e-commerce business. They have a very omni-channel. I mean, it's more of like a luxury brand, or certainly positioned more in the premium. For example, I was just traveling this weekend and saw them in sort of like the duty free shops. So I'm going to break it down. Even despite all of that, like they have a pretty dialed in CRM plan. I have all the emails pulled up from 2025, and I have a benchmark report that I'm going to go break down. So we'll just start with the benchmarking just so you get a basis of this brand. So, um, they're doing about 2 million visitors a month. So that's a significant amount of traffic. Very heavy social traffic. They get a lot of like TikTok traffic, organic traffic. Definitely it could be branded as well. But that's sort of a little bit of that traffic. A lot of Instagram followers too. Very, very good at sort of driving, creating impressions, creating awareness, and driving traffic via social media. Um, in terms of diving into their CRM, yeah, I mean, they send a lot of emails, about 25 emails a month. I got sometimes more, sometimes less. So steady cadence, pretty dialed in CRM plan, CRM team. I benchmarked them pretty high. Uh, I'll talk about their promotional stuff, their product launches, replenishments. There's still some things I think they could probably improve on, but you don't have to use every single angle. And this is not like a perfect system. We do these angles or hooks, sometimes people call them, to just sort of figure out, because we don't have access to their CRM. I do not work with this brand. I don't, you know, um, know their open rates, their click through rates, their list size, how big their list is growing. I just sort of can look at the hooks they're using. And typically, in my experience, any brand that gets over 10 in this is doing probably a pretty good job. 15 and over 20 is like world class. And just because you don't use every angle doesn't mean, or just because you don't use every angle doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing. Like some brands they just don't add these angles or these hooks in their workflow. But from my experience, most really scaled up brands, they have like 5 to 10 angles or hooks they repeatedly come back to and use over and over again. So scored pretty high here. Promotional frequency, this is like a great percentage to be at. Around 20 to 30% is what I tell brands to be at. Obviously, like sometimes the more promotional emails you send, the more revenue you can make, but it's sort of a short-term game. A lot of brands that I see that are doing 60, 70, 80% of their emails are promotional. What I mean by promotional is like anything with like a discount code, percent off, or any free gift, anything that's sort of giving someone a promotion in order to get them to purchase. So I do think you need to have promotional emails. I think they help drive revenue in the CRM, specifically with prospects that have not purchased yet, or first-time purchasers that maybe you need a little extra incentive to become a repeat customer. But I don't think your whole CRM program should rely on it. So when I see something like this, like 20 to 30%, it means it's really healthy. It means this is a brand that knows how to use CRM to convert, knows how to use it to drive revenue, but it's not solely relying on it. Has more creative that they are deploying other than just promotional emails. And then in terms of tech stack, I'm pretty sure, I know they're using Klaviyo for email marketing. A lot of their campaigns are deployed via Klaviyo. Couldn't totally figure out where they're sending SMS, if it was from Klaviyo or perhaps Salesforce. I'm not totally sure there. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say Klaviyo. But I couldn't tell from the UTM parameters or when I was analyzing the short code on the text message. Other stuff they're using in their tech stack. So Shopify, this is what the web store is built on. It's a Shopify CMS. You move into Shopify checkout, and then they use Gorgeous as their chat app. So this is a pretty modern tech stack for a brand that is owned by what is it? I think it's L'Oreal, maybe. I might have to double check that, but they're owned by, one of the big, massive beauty conglomerates. Um, and one of the things that I think stands out here is why I think they were able to scale so fast, because they started in 2025 and in 6 years they sold for over 400. Excuse me, they started in 2015 and in over 6 years scaled over $400 million. Acquisition is the founder. The founder is I think her name is Hila Yang, who I had actually never heard of before I started breaking this down. But if you just look at her background, um, okay, yeah, so they're owned by L'Occitane. She worked at Clinique, she worked at Lancome, went to Harvard Business School. Um, so really had a very, very good background in terms of like knew how to really scale a brand. When you're working on these, when you're working at Clinique or you're working at Lancome, you're already working on these scaled up brands that already have all this distribution. And so she knew what it looked like. So I think it was very easy for her to probably go and get started. Not easy, but I think she had a very clear roadmap and playbook on what to do. And I think that's why they are probably able to scale so fast. I do a lot of these breakdowns, and when we used to go, like we used to do this show and called Why Brands Work, and like we would literally spend 20 minutes on the team sometimes, because that's really, really important. Like who is behind these brands, who is the visionary behind these brands, or who the agencies behind these brands, who's operationally behind the scenes. The capital partners are often important too. So it helps when you have like a really strong visionary who has a really good track record. And I think that's why this brand in particular, she was able to really build this out, position it in the premium luxury sort of market, and get to such a high valuation, because she's already had like a lot of visibility and success in doing that at her previous stops. Okay, so with that said, let's jump into the actual CRM strategy, email marketing angles. I love going through their actual swipe file. One thing I will say, there's a couple things I wanted to say I think they do really well. I'm not going to go through every single email, but I think one thing, if you are studying them, there's a couple things I really like that they do. The first thing, they're one of the best. I'm always looking for what is this brand the best at? Like, where do they stand out against? Because I've benchmarked, hundreds of brands now. And so I'm like, do I really need to talk about another like promotional email? Or do I really need to talk about like another social proof email or something like that? Like, what is it that really makes this brand unique, or what do they really do specifically well in CRM, and how can you replicate that in your own business, or if you're working at an agency for your own clients or clients that you're working on? And I think there's two things that I think that they do really well. I mean, they do a lot of this stuff that I see a lot of other brands do, but I think one thing that they're really big on is their rewards program, their loyalty program. They do a great job. One of the better jobs I've seen at sort of deploying this across campaigns. And I think one thing where that starts is just like, what is your rewards program? I can tell they've put a lot of energy into this, and it's pretty well thought out. There is mixed opinions on loyalty. Like, does it actually work? I think I've heard, from my experiences, a lot of times these loyalty programs actually don't work. They don't drive a lot of revenue. People are using just sort of generic loyalty programs, or they're just outsourcing it to an agency. Hey, you go figure it out. But it starts with like, what are the actual rewards? Like actually incentivizing people, and really like deploying that, whatever you set up, across the marketing stack. So, and I think they probably do a good job. I think if I were to log in, I would to their accounts, their Klaviyo accounts, I would see this a pretty well built out loyalty program. I think they're using Yotpo for this. I'm not totally sure though, but they've got these point systems, so I would go back, if you're a beauty brand and you're sort of thinking about ideation around loyalty, or like setting up a loyalty program, I go look at these guys, because I think that they're really pretty dialed in here. They also have the referral program too. on the loyalty page, which I thought was pretty cool. So this is like sort of a referral flow. And then when it comes to the actual campaigns, like as you could see, like almost a couple times, and this is why it's so good, because they're coming back and they're using these loyalty. When I benchmark these brands, I gave them a point for this loyalty, but they do really they're doing this like every week. This is a hook or an angle that they're coming back to all the time. So this is a loyalty program. New rewards just dropped. So they're doing that. They do these like double your points emails. Let's see if I can find that. I don't know where it is. Rewards recap. Like they do these as campaigns. So your current tier. So they're really putting this loyalty program at the center of their campaign calendar, which I think is, again, I think they're one of the better brands I've seen at doing this. I'm trying to find these double your points. I think they might be more down here, and when I was looking at their recent emails. As you can see, like this is just September that we pulled already. Reward yourself. They're already doing that. Anyway, okay. If you go through this, you'll find it. They do. I would just go look through all their rewards, anything around rewards, and you'll find some really good inspiration. The next thing they do that I think is really good, again, I'm not going to harp on everything. They got good social proof emails, good product emails, good sort of just like templates, and it's pretty well designed. But I think what I really like what they do is their promotional calendar. So if you look at, like, for example, this email right here, 15% off, subscribe to save. They got a point here for a subscribe to save, but it's also, you could also say it's a promotional email. All right. What you'll see is a lot of brands, they just rotate these like 15% off, 20% off offer every single month, or something like that. And honestly, they rarely do these types of promotions. Actually, where they spend a lot of their time on promotions is like these free gifts. Okay. So for example, right, end of August and beginning of September, they ran this complimentary beauty bag. So if you're looking for like inspirations on, if you're a brand that's like, okay, how can we drive sales? How can we do promotions, but not like lower the value of our products where we're just giving things away for 10% off or 25% off or 30% off or 15% off or whatever it may be? These guys, they do a very, very good job of this. And they're not the only brand that does this. I've worked with other brands that do this, but you can tell that they've sort of lined this all up, probably months in advance. If you think about it, like complimentary beauty bag plus minis, that's something where you need support from your operational team to fulfill that. Okay. Like they probably had to go out and buy these bags or, or like procure these bags somehow. It has their logo on it. There's lead times. So it's like they're really, planning out their promotional calendar probably a year in advance. Okay. So they know, okay, during this month at the end of August, we're going to do a beauty bag promotion. That means we need to have that beauty bag sourced and landed in our warehouses by XYZ date. And then we have to have the CRM team and probably the paid traffic team to line all that up. So again, there does take some energy behind this. It's not something you could just like go out and ideate tomorrow, be like, we're going to do free beauty bag and just deploy that, So when I see stuff like that, I can tell just how sort of dialed in of an operation it is. And I think that that's what they do very well, and they treat it like any other promotional offer. And so a lot of brands will just do like 15% off starts today, 15% off continued, 15% off last chance. So they have this promotional window for this particular promo. As you can see, this starts in late August. 1, 2, 3, moving into September. Oh no, sorry. that was August, moving into September, 4, and this is the last chance. So they line up like 4 emails for this specific promotion. That's just one example. Let me see if I can find another one. It looks like they're doing something like this every month. So here's another one, this complimentary limited edition beauty bag. Again, like it's not something, it's a limited edition. It's not something they regularly have in fulfillment. They have to have this lined up months in advance, and again, starts today, then it's the final hours. So it's just like, again, it's if you're like a premium brand. And here's that the emails I was talking about with the rewards, what they do really well. They also have promotions around rewards. So it's like if you buy a fragrance with bundle or something like that, you get double the points. And again, like my hunch is, I don't know if this is totally working, but my hunch is if you're a brand that's worth $400 million, you've been sold to a beauty conglomerate, and you're making loyalty a central part of your campaign strategy. Again, as you can see, like they have in the header of the emails, like your status and the points that you have. My hunch is that these conglomerates, they have really smart people working in these departments. They typically have full CRM teams, or they have like a CRM agency that they're very dialed in with. My hunch is that this is working. Okay. And so again, if you're a beauty brand or you're a brand that wants to focus more on loyalty, I would go through this and see what they're doing. Also, like I said, their promotions work. The promotional strategy is pretty dialed in. They're finding ways to do promotional emails, but without just relying on discounts. Let me see if I can find another one. 2X. Again, here they do this 20% event. This is sort of a summer sale kind of. And again, it's pretty dialed in. They treat it like you would like a Black Friday sort of promotion, where they're putting this at the center of their promotional strategy. And then when it's over, they're done. They go back to the normal calendar. They're not just like spamming the list with 20% promotions. Again, here's another promotional one, limited edition Wave Rider set, more rewards, buy one, get one. So they will have these like sort of special promotions that's not just giving out, a discount code. So yeah, those are my takeaways. I think that's what they do extremely well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. We're breaking down new brands all the time. Almost every week I'm sitting down and breaking down the CRM strategy of a scaled up brand, whether they're in beauty, health and wellness, fitness, apparel, pets. We've even broken down some B2B ones before as well. But yeah, stay tuned for the next one. And again, if you are a beauty brand and you are actually looking for inspiration, I think this is a pretty good one. And there's a lot of good stuff. And again, we give away all of this for free. If you click on the link, if you're watching this on YouTube, you click on the link in the description, you can get access to all these documents I'm sharing, the free breakdown, the free benchmarking index, where you can sort of see our notes on why we benchmark them, what tools they're using, what hooks and angles they're using, and just a little bit more about the business itself. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.